Hey folks, today we're going to talk about how to use a turkey mouth call. If you don't use a turkey mouth call currently, I strongly recommend you try it because it's one of the most realistic sounding calls and it's also hands-free. So with turkey calling and turkey hunting, it's very important to be hands-free. The slightest movement and you can send the birds running. So the turkey mouth call looks like this. And all it is a half moon with reeds and various types of reeds, usually 2 to 3 reeds, and various types of cuts. Now this happens to be a ghost cut. You can see there it's just got the center cut out of it. And it's one of my favorite calls. It's a little higher pitch call, and it's sometimes I struggle when I'm cutting with it. I have to be very careful to actually get to not be too high of a note. I can't go too fast with it because sometimes I'll throw a real high pitched key in there, if you will. And but it's a very good call for making clucks and yelps. So the 4 calls I want to cover are the yelp, the cluck, the cut, and the purr. The first thing is the yelp. And the reason I start with the yelp is, one, because it's the most used call. And if you can yelp, you can call in a turkey. It's also, all the other calls, except for the purr, are kind of a variation of the yelp. If you can do a yelp, you can do the other ones. It just takes a little bit of practice. So all the yelp is a combination of a high and a low pitched note in a relatively quick fashion. So in order to do that, the first thing you got to do is be able to make a noise. So when you get a mouth call, I recommend you just put it in your mouth and just start playing with it. So try to make any noise you can. What you're going to want to do is stick it to the roof of your mouth, hold it up there with your tongue, and you're going to use the middle of your tongue to apply pressure on the reed. And you're just going to blow air, and the amount of pressure that you have on the reed is going to dictate how high or low of a pitch the sound is. So if you want to make a high pitch sound, you're going to want to have a lot of pressure with your tongue on the reed, and you're going to want a pretty high volume of air going through there. If you want a low pitch sound, you're just going to reduce pressure from your tongue. Now, the yelp is a combination of the two. So the first thing I would recommend is just get this thing in there and practice high and low, going from high, going to low. Start with one or the other, and then try to get both of them so that you can just get a feel for how what your mouth needs to do in order to get to those notes. So just get it in your mouth and just play with it. And as you play with it, you'll get more comfortable, and it'll help you when you're trying to combine the notes. Now, in order to make a yelp, you have to go from high to low. So if you're struggling with the transition, slow it down and just make it so that you're going from high to low and just draw it out like this. As you can tell, it goes from high to low. The other thing you can see is that my jaw is dropping as I do that. Now, the other thing I find helpful is that you probably can't see it from the front, but for higher notes, I like to have my bottom jaw more in line with my top teeth, and then for lower notes, I actually find it's helpful to have that jaw kind of come out away from and in front of my teeth, and all it does is just kind of creates more path for the sound to travel coming out of your mouth, which helps to get to the low note. When you're ready and you get used and you're good at going from high to low like that, then all you have to do is speed it up. Now you don't have to go super fast, but you do have to you kind of blend those two together. So when you're ready, it's going to sound like this. you can play with how much you drop your jaw to exaggerate the low sound, but you want to get to that low sound. Once you get the yelp, the next thing you're going to want to do is deal with volume control. So when a turkey's in closer, you're not going to want to be yelping that loud. And that's where it's going to get into a lower volume of air, but the same type of opening and closing your mouth. So it's going to sound like this. And as you can tell, I'm keeping my mouth a lot more closed so that it's a quieter noise. It helps to cut down on the noise. When the turkey's in closer, you're going to want to be quieter. When it's further away, let it rip. Now that's the yelp. Now, like I said, if you can do the yelp, you can do any call. Next call we're going to talk about is the cluck. Cluck is the same concept, but it's a much shorter note, and you're just going to hit it with a quick burst of air. In my opinion, it's one of the hardest calls to be good at, because it's such a short note, and there isn't that much of a. It's really kind of just a quick pop. This is what it sounds like. Now, you can see I'm still opening and closing my mouth. Now, if you actually watch a turkey making a call, she's going to open and close her mouth with every call. So, it's only makes sense that you do the same thing. It's going to be more realistic that way. Now, that cluck is going to be very important to you. Now, if you want to see how well a cluck will work to bring in a hen, check out this video that is popped up here. Now, when that hen has a gobbler with her, guess who she's going to bring with her? And that's usually one of the biggest adversaries that we turkey hunters face is a gobbler that's henned up. And in order to get that gobbler to come in, he's not leaving those hens. You have to bring that hen over to you. You got to get her mad or mimic her calls or do something along those lines, and they'll come in and they'll check you out. They're curious creatures. So you can see this one that in that video, like literally came. I mean, she was 5 yards away from me, and I was just clucking. Every time she clucked, I was clucking back at her. Now, I don't have the world's best cluck, but as you can see, it doesn't take the best cluck in the world in order to get a turkey to come in. So go ahead and practice that cluck, and don't get frustrated because it is one of the harder calls to do because it's just such a short duration. And again, once you get it, you want to work on volume control. The cluck is never really going to be a loud noise, so you gotta, when you get it loud and then cut back and go lower volume. And you can do that by limiting how much you open your mouth. So again, I am barely opening my mouth here. So that's the cluck. Now, the cut is kind of like a high-powered cluck. So you're doing a high volume of air and you're doing a fast, high-pitched, but you still need to get the low. It's high-low, very fast, and that's where the yelp is the same concept. You're gonna just open your mouth and close it again real fast. So you got to drop your tongue and bring it right back up almost immediately. And with this call, when I cut, I'm still working on this one because, like I said, it's a higher pitch call. If I go too fast, you'll hear me throw a real high pitched, more of a key out there, and that's because I never actually dropped my tongue all the way off of it and presented a higher pitched sound. Now, cutting, hens are going to cut in one or two note increments. So anytime you go out there and there's somebody just I mean, that's not what a real turkey's going to do. She's going to go out there and she's going to pop, pop, pop. She's not going to go pop, 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 pop. So that sounds more like a fly down cackle, and you're going to want to stay away from that. So it actually helps. Don't be afraid to actually slow down a little bit when you're making these cuts. This is what a cut sounds like. Now again, I'm sorry if I throw one of those high pitchers in there, but at least you'll hear it. Now that's cutting. You can see when I threw the high pitchers in there, it was when I was trying to do a 2-note combo. That's because you literally have to go, you have to blow the air and you have to drop your tongue, bring it back up, drop your tongue and bring it back up too fast. And if I don't drop my tongue far enough on the first one before bringing it back and I bring it back up too fast for the second one, I never finish the first one and I throw out a really high note on the second one. And so that's going to take a little bit of practice. There's certain calls that I can cut a lot better with. And a lot of times when I'm out in the woods, I actually have 2 calls in my mouth. And when I want to cut, I'll use one call. And when I want to use yelps, I'll use a different call. So here's a different call. It's a little more raspy, but I'm a little better at cutting with this one. You can see I'm still opening and closing my mouth every time. That's very important. So that's a cut. Now, once you've learned the yelp, the cluck, and the cut, you're 90% there. You're pretty much home free, and you can kill pretty much any turkey you want. There are a couple variations, and there's something called the excited yelp, and that's kind of a combination of cutting and yelping. I'm not fantastic at it, but this is kind of what it sounds like. So that's an excited yelp. That's nothing that you ever really are going to have to do, but if you want to get a gobbler fired up, maybe he's long distance and he's henned up and you're kind of in desperation mode, that's not a bad thing to throw at him just to see what he'll do. The last call you're going to want to be able to make is the purr. Purr is a great call for getting a gobbler to close a distance. If he's hung up 50, 60 yards, then this is a good call to try, especially the cluck and purr, which is just purring with clucks mixed in. Now, in order to do a purr, you got to be able to roll your tongue. There's some people that can do it without rolling their tongue by using like the motorboat method, which is just vibrating your lips. But it's hard to get it at a realistic tone and low enough volume in order to do this. If you can't roll your tongue, practice. I couldn't roll my tongue when I started, and for that reason, my purr is never going to be perfect, but I think it's good enough that it'll be able to get the job done. So, in order to make the purr, you're just going to want to blow air and let your tongue flutter. So practice rolling your tongue without a call in your mouth, and then put the call in your mouth and try to roll your tongue with it in there. And once you get used to that, then you can start working on trying to make a purr sound. And that's basically by just cutting back on the volume and then messing with how open or closed your mouth is. Now, I try to keep my mouth as closed as possible because my purr is a little loud, so if I can keep my mouth closed, it'll help to make it a little more realistic by making it a little softer. But this is what it's going to sound like. And if you want to, you can mix in some clucks. That's the Cluck and Purr. Now, again, that's something you're going to have to work on. I am nowhere near a fantastic clucker and purrer, but if push came to shove and I got in a pinch and there was a gobbler hanging up 50, 60 yards away, I'm going to give that a shot. You got nothing else to lose. And it's by far the call that I practice the most. So those are the 4 different calls. And the thing that I can say the most is practice, 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 practice. This is something where it was difficult enough of a call that I was bound and determined to figure out how to do it. And so I have a half an hour drive to work every day. And guess what I'm doing on my way to and from work, getting ready for turkey season? I'm practicing my mouth call. It's a little hard to practice at home with your wife because guess what? It's really annoying. I also have 2 dogs and they don't like it when I practice either because it drives them crazy. But just get it and just practice, practice, practice. This is something that I picked up a mouth call for the first time after week 1 of turkey season last year, and by week 3 I called in a turkey using the mouth call and was able to kill one successfully. That is basically just purely practicing every second that I could. So just get out there and good luck this year.